For all those participants who joined us just now, for the questions today, you can either raise your hand in the participants tab or type them out in the group chat box, and I will bring it to Sampada's attention in between her talk. Handing it over to you, Sampada. You can begin.
Thank you, Ojasvi. Hello everyone, I'm Sampada, and in today's presentation, I'll be talking about evidentiality in Gujarati from a semantic perspective. Today, we'll see what evidentiality means and how are the evidentials classified. Then we'll go on to look at how is evidentiality marked in Gujarati. Evidentiality is, as Ekinwar 2004 says, it is observed in about a quarter of the world's languages. Every statement must specify the type of source on which it is based. For example, whether the speaker saw it or heard it or inferred it from an indirect evidence or learnt it from someone else. This grammatical category, whose primary meaning is information source, is called evidentiality. As Bashir 2006 says, Indo-Aryan languages do not have a grammatical category, a separate grammatical category of evidentiality, but it is either morphologically coded or the expression of evidentiality is distributed throughout the grammar as in compound verbs, tense, aspect, irrativity, modality, passives, nominalizations, person, demonstratives, etc., which then develop overtones similar to some semantic features of evidentials. So today we'll be looking at some of them for Gujarati. These are a few examples from English so as to see what evidentiality means. So in the first example, John saw Mary crossing the road, and in the second example, John saw that Mary had crossed the road. So in sentence 1, indicates that the speaker has witnessed the event, has a direct visual evidence of it happening. In 2, on the other hand, the speaker has only witnessed the result of the event. Therefore, the sentence has an inferential evidential overtone. Okay, so it is an inferred information rather than a visual one. In third example, I heard France beating Brazil, and fourth, I heard that France beat Brazil. In sentence 3, the verb hear is used in its primary auditory meaning, that I heard it, while in sentence 4, hear is used with an evidential hearsay meaning, that I heard it from somewhere on radio or in television, that I heard it from someone, that France beat Brazil. So evidentiality is classified as, according to Ekinwar and Dixon, in 2 types. Type 1, where it states the existence of a source of the evidence without needing to specify the source itself. And type 2 specifies the kind of evidence, be it visually obtained based on inference or reported information. So in type 1, the source of information is specified in the particular utterance, while in type 2, it is, it's the other way around. So now we look upon the parameters used in classification of evidentials. According to Ekinwar 2004, these are the types of evidential, these are the types of parameters. One is visual, which covers evidence acquired through seeing. Sensory, which covers evidence through hearing and is typically extended to smell, taste, or sometimes even touch. Inference, based on visible or tangible evidence or result. Assumption, based on evidence other than visible results This may include broad logical reasoning, assumptions, or simply general knowledge. Hearsay for reported information with no reference to whom it was reported by. Quotative for reported information with an overt reference to the quoted source. Bashir 2006 has another set of parameters for classifying the, based on which she classifies the evidentials. One is source of information, whether it is internal or external. Second is the time of obtaining the information, whether it is past, that is old knowledge, present, new knowledge, or future, is it a presumption? Third is directness. Direct as in first-hand sensory knowledge or is well established, hence it is speaker internal, and indirect, which is second-hand or reported or inferred knowledge. So the points of exploration that I have attempted to look at here are how is evidentiality marked in Gujarati in a purely synchronic aspect, and how is Gujarati placed with regard to type 1 evidential systems, type 1 and type 2 that we previously talked about, languages with evidentiality. Am I clear so far?
Yes, Sampada, all clear.
Okay. The framework used for present study. So the basis of the work is to look at the morphological markings and semantics of evidentials for Gujarati, for which the framework that was devised by Bashir is used, where she has explored evidential systems in a number of South Asian languages. And for understanding the semantics of evidentials, it is necessary to look at what point on an event vector does a speaker focus on. So for this, Delancey's cognitive model of event as a vector having two endpoints, that is origin and termination, is used. So now we look at marking of evidentiality in Gujarati. So here are a few examples, a few data examples. So firstly, look at how is evidentiality marked through via tense. Simple present tense, for example, in example 5, a loko ave che. Okay, so here, as in they are coming. Here we get a direct visual evidential reading. In the next example, so for simple past tense, in example 6, a chokri boli, this girl spoke. This also has a direct sensory evidential reading. Sensory as in it is heard that someone spoke, this girl spoke. Next, simple future tense, a Mumbai jaise. Okay, he'll go to Mumbai. This is presumptive knowledge or indirect evidential reading. So this isn't the direct or first-hand knowledge that someone has. And next is the pluperfect tense, a avelo che. So as in he has come, so as in he has come in the room. So it can either have a direct or an indirect evidential reading. Yeah. So while
Sampada, I think we lost your audio. Did you say something after while? I'm afraid I don't know the meaning of that word in linguistics. Thanks, Sampriya. He has and Shreya. Oh, pluperfect is past perfect. So to people who are also working on evidentiality and aspect who would want to add something to the discussion so far, now is the time you can join in. Thanks, Mary. She has elaborated pluperfect for us further. She says that it's a completed event that happened before a point in the past. To the participants who have joined us today in the group chat, could you specify whether you have evidential marking via morphology in your languages? It would be interesting to know that. Or if you're aware about languages that have specific evidential marking in them. So Chinmay has given us input on Sanskrit, and they say that Sanskrit can be believed to have an aorist form, basically the type 2 that Sampada has shown us. And Shreya Mehta has given us input for Spiti, one of the languages that she is working on, which marks 3 kinds of evidentials. All the 3 are morphologically marked to denote a kind of sensory evidential. It could either be visual, auditory, and tactile.
Hello.
Hey, Sampada. Yes.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry, my computer just restarted. Yeah, I'll share the screen.
Yes, please go ahead. Gopal, do you want me to raise the comment you mentioned just now? So Gopal has commented that the future has connotations of presumptions in Tamil as well, just like in Indo-Aryan. It could be an aerial feature, is his comment.
Okay, okay, okay. Obviously, I'm not able to share the screen.
Try now. I made you the co-host.
Okay. Right.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Right. So yeah, there was a comment. Sorry, I missed it. Yeah.
No, we were just discussing pluperfect while your system was logging back in. You can go back to the discussion. We can have this comment at the end.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So join in again. So in case of pluperfect, a avelo che, he has come. This can either have indirect or direct evidential meaning. So direct as in I have seen that he has come. He had come in the room. It could be a direct evidential reading, and in the indirect one where I hear. So there's one person who is extremely loud, and I hear his voice from that room. And now that I say that, okay, a veloce, he has come to the room, right? So that's the indirect evidential reading there. So, here there's a side note. While we look at the perfective aspect in the next slides, for example, here, a avio che, he has come, we can have only direct evidential reading. So as to say as an a avio che versus a avelo che. So we have this like clear distinction here, where in perfective, we can only have direct evidential reading, while in the pluperfect tense, we can have either direct or indirect. Okay, now we'll be looking at aspect, as in how evidentials are marked via aspect. In perfective, ene kaam karyu, meaning he did the
Sampada,
work. Yeah, sorry.
will
Yeah.
be able to take one question?
Sure.
It deals with your previous slide.
Okay.
Kinjal has a data question. He wants to know whether the simple present sentence seems ambiguous, as it can be evidential and non-evidential both.
Simple present tense. Okay. E loco ave che. How do you have the non-evidential reading? Kinjal, could you elaborate?
Yeah. So so one is where you're standing maybe near the door or by the window, and then you see people coming and you say this sentence in five, right? But the other could be just something like you have an information, and you're sure that there are a group of people who will be coming, and you say this. No.
Right. So that too is an information that is gained from some source, right? As in, those people would have called you, or someone would have told you that they are coming. So in case of someone telling you that they have come or they are coming, it would still be hearsay information. And in case of them telling you directly, it would still be direct information, as in first-hand information that you have received from them while they talk to you. So, right.
Thanks. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay.
Hello, may I come in once?
Sure,
Yeah,
Vyom.
sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, just like on Kinjal's point, what I think he means to say is that it doesn't necessarily have to be a direct visual evidence.
Right.
I mean, like it could be information passed on by someone, but not necessarily visual.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I agree to that. Yes.
Yangchin, you can unmute yourself and come in. She also has a question.
Okay.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Hi, Sampada, I was just a little curious as to know whether you're suggesting that an evidential reading, which of course, I mean, any sentence given a particular context can be, argued to have some sort of evidentiality associated with it. Are you saying that is the same as having an evidential marker, having markers to signify a particular type of evidentiality? Because I mean, I haven't come across any markers yet in the data, and what would be interesting would be to see if you have two kinds of evidentiality in the same tense aspect combination. So can the same thing be said two ways, such that one of each of them is associated with one kind of evidence for that piece of knowledge?
Right. As I said, for example, in pluperfect, here we have so the same utterance can be taken in both senses, in two kinds of evidential readings, direct and indirect both. So I think this would be the example.
Here you have two separate forms of the verb come, isn't it?
No, I'm referring to 8 itself. So a avelo che.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. But okay. So that's exactly what I was concerned about. The fact that the same sentence can have both an indirect and direct evidential reading. That is true for any language. I mean, even I can take a sentence in Malayalam and I can say that they can have both an indirect and direct evidential reading depending on context. But do you have a marker for it is the question, right?
Yeah, so having a marker would suggest that it does exist, I mean, I don't know, a separate grammatical sort of evidentiality, but as Bashir has already pointed, inherent languages do not seem to show that. So far I haven't come across any marker, but so far I haven't. Yeah, I'll have to look more. Yeah.
I was just wondering if you have a marker. That's all. Thanks. Yeah.
Right. Thanks. Yeah.
Sampada, we have a follow-up question from Shrikar on Kinjal's data question, which dealt with your simple present. So Shrikar says that suppose I infer that they are coming back is based on some random piece of evidence, like he sees their appointment book or something. In such a situation, how would you say they are coming?
Sorry, I missed the part where he gets the information from where.
So he's inferring this information now that they are coming back based on some random piece of evidence. Probably he sees their appointment book. So in this context, how would you say they are coming?
Okay. I need to think upon this. Yeah. I've noted it down. Yeah.
Okay, Shrikar, thank you for that question. Sohad has a follow-up on Yangchen's question. They want to know, what do you think of Lage in terms of evidentiality marking?
Right. So I have Lage example in the next slide. So I'll talk about it when it comes.
Yangchen, do you have another question? You have raised your hand.
No, sorry, I think I forgot to put it down. I'll just put it down. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. We'll let you get back to your presentation, Sampada.
All right. Okay.
Oh, sorry, one more. Kinjal, do you have one more data question?
Yeah, just I think like a small comment. So, so Sampada, so going back to Shrikar's question, I think like for me, I would use the Avana Che form, where Avana, so instead of Aveche, I would use the Avana Che.
Prospective. Yeah. I have that example later. Yes.
Yeah,
True.
That's for now. Sampada, you can get back.
Okay. All right. Right. So we saw the perfective aspect where Ene Kam Karyu in example 10, he did the work. This is direct first-hand evidential reading, right? So this could again have indirect reading as well, as in Ene Kam Karyu. So if I see it that he has done the work, I'll say Ene Kam Karyu. And I can also say Ene Kam Karyu as in like someone else has told me that he has done the work. And then if I'm reporting it to someone else, then I can say Ene Kam Karyu. So it can be a heard information and it can be a direct visual information as well. Next, for the imperfective aspect, example 11, E Nishade Jato Hato, where he was going to the school, we have direct visual evidential reading where I'm seeing him go to the school. Okay, so as Kinjal had earlier pointed out that I'm standing beside the window and then looking at someone passing by and commenting as E Nishade Jato Hato. Okay, and while in the habitual sense, so the imperfective and like the progressive and the imperfective. So the habitual sense here can have a first-hand knowledge or an established fact, as in I've always seen him going to the school, So I'll have a first-hand knowledge or it is an established knowledge in case of habitual reading, and direct visual evidence in case of imperfective reading. Right? Okay. So for habitual, Nirav darroj savare doodh pीवे छे, where every day Nirav drinks the milk in the morning. We have direct first-hand knowledge. It is an established knowledge. It is direct visual as well. And when I see it every day happening, it is an established knowledge as well, right? Next is the perspective aspect that Kinjal was talking about. A Mumbai Javano che. So he is going to Mumbai. So this is again presumptive knowledge, therefore indirect. So it is based on like when I have heard it from someone, or when I've it's a presumed knowledge that okay, something has happened in his family in Mumbai, and now he's going to go to Mumbai. Okay, this is like both contexts. Right. Next, we look at evidentials that are marked via mood. So, for example, in some subjunctive mood, A, Varsad padyo hase, in example 14, it might have rain. It is, I get a sensory, visual, and inferred evidence, as in it has rained today, and probably in the evening, what do you say, see the wet soil, or I get the smell of the wet soil. So that's how it is visual and inferred. So it has rained a lot today, right? It might have rained. Versus example 15, where Aliko mesma gayo hase. Aliko must have gone to the mess. So this isn't sensory, but is inferred. So the first one is sensory and inferred, and the second one, like 15, is non-sensory and inferred. Okay, so at this point of time in in the day, so probably it's 1:30, and if Aliko is not around in the classroom, probably he's in the mess. Like, Aliko where would he have been? He must have gone to the mess. Okay. Next, when we look at the potential mood, so here comes the lage example that Sohad was asking about. Evu lage છે કે એ હવે જશે. Okay, this so it seems like he will go now. So this is indirect and assumptive or inferred evidential reading. So this is what the evidential reading that I get from here. Have I answered your question, Sohad?
I think you have, Sohad. Do you have a follow-up? He says yes.
Oh,
you can carry on.
Okay. Okay, so this is the last data slide. So now we look at evidentials via interjections. So where we have the myrative reading. So myrative is where like the category which expresses surprise. Okay. So for example, in example 17, Are ketlo moto thai gayo. Oh, he has grown so tall, or he has grown. We get a myrative reading because of the interjection array. So we can have a visual or visual direct evidential reading here as well. And as well as we can have a hearsay reading too. So when I see the person and I say that you've grown so tall, it does have a visual direct evidential reading. While if someone else has told me that now that person X is 28 years old, and I say "Are kitlo moto thai gayo," so that would mean that's a hearsay information. Right? Next, in example 18, वो रीना गीता ने पत्र लखे छे. So this would have a myrative visual direct reading, right? So I see that Gita is writing a letter to, Reena is writing a letter to Gita, and I'm seeing it. So I'm surprised. Oh, she's writing it to her, right? So we get the myrative reading from the interjection and the visual direct reading because I'm seeing them writing it. Okay. Are there any further questions? Because I'm done with the data.
There is a comment by Samutriya, but that's not directly related to the data. So we can have that for our question answer round.
Okay.
It's a call for questions other participants have related to the presentation right now.
Okay.
Or you?
Yeah. Yeah. So a few observations based on the data that we've looked today. It was observed that Gujarati encodes evidentiality as it is spread across the grammar in a number of ways, namely via tense. We saw simple past tense, simple present tense, simple future tense, pluperfect. Then via aspect, perfective, imperfective, habitual, prospective. Third, via mood, subjunctive, potential. Fourth, via interjections. So these are not the only ways in which evidentials are or can be marked. The other evidential, I'm still to look at the other kinds of evidentials that are marked in Gujarati. So there's like a lot other ways via which evidentiality can be marked in grammar is via complementizers, compound verbs, quotatives, evidentials in negations. So there's like this a whole another approach to look at evidentials in negation or interrogation, and then there's a lot to study about epistemic modality and evidentials. When that happens from a diachronic perspective, but that's not what I have to talk about today. So thus, based on the data observed, Gujarati belongs to the type 1 evidential systems in which it is not necessary to specify the source of information. Okay, so it belongs to the type 1 languages. We saw the type 1 and type 2 languages, right? The classification of evidential systems. So Gujarati belongs to the type 1 where it isn't necessarily to specify the source of information, okay, in the utterance, right? So for direct evidential readings, we have those readings from simple present tense, simple past tense, pluperfect, perfective, imperfective, habitual, and myrative. Indirect evidential readings we see via simple future tense, pluperfect, prospective, subjunctive, potential, and myrative. So evidential readings of, so we saw the pluperfect versus the perfective, where in the pluperfect we can have both the readings as indirect and indirect evidential readings, while in the perfective we have to have only the direct evidential reading. Then in the imperfective versus habitual evidential reading, where we get direct, in imperfective we have direct evidential reading, and in habitual we have to have we have direct first hand and probably established knowledge as well, right? In the third, subjunctive mood versus affective aspect versus the future tense. So as in the example Varsat Padyo Hase, it could have rained, it might have rained today. We get a sensory, visual, or inferred evidential reading versus perfective, where Aje Bau Varsat Padyo Che. Sorry, I don't have examples on the slide, but I can just read out the translation. It rained a lot today. Okay, so here we have direct evidence, direct visual, first-hand knowledge of this happening, right? While in future tense, Kale bhi varsad padse, will rain tomorrow too. So this is again indirect and presumptive readings. I just wanted to point out where we have different kinds of like tense, aspect, and mood, and then how the evidential readings change per se of the like same or similar utterance, right? So this study was done in a limited synchronic perspective, and it listed ways in which Gujarati encoded evidentiality would spread across grammar. These are the references. Thank you.
Thank you, Sampada. Thank you for this talk. So I would first go to the questions and comment section. If you could just repeat once again the sentence you gave for lage. Chinmay Dharkar had the question about that.
Lage. So એવું લાગે છે કે એ હવે જશે. So yes, Chinmay. Yeah.
Chinmay, is this clear? But we can have a discussion on this. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So like lage, we also have several quotative forms.
Okay.
So will all those be considered when we think of evidentiality?
Yes, quotative forms very productively give evidential readings. So that's something that I've not talked about today, but like what all do you have in mind? Quotatives like?
I'm not sure about Gujarati quotatives, but across Indian languages we have a huge,
pool of quotatives. Yeah. So in Marathi, like to udya yenare mhane. So in that we get a hearsay kind of a reading, right? Evidential hearsay reading, right?
Okay, so basically all quotatives can also be considered to be marking evidentiality that way. Indirect one, of course.
Yes.
Okay. Sampada, I'll get back to one observation made by Samudra. He mentioned a fact about the language. So he says there is an actual proper morphological evidential marking in far northwestern Indo-Aryan Kalasha Mun and probably Khowatu. In Kalasha Mun, the direct past is marked with the R prefix, which is a survivor from Sanskrit imperfective and aorist, while a past hearsay is marked with a distinct verb form, often suppletive together with the verb hic, acting as an auxiliary that shows person and number marking. So this is what he had to say at one point. Samudra, would you like to add to this discussion?
This is a very interesting point, yeah.
Oh, it's just an observation. So Sampada, maybe you could look at it for your future work.
Right. Yes, I've noted it down. Thank you.
Yes. And Shrikar has a question. He says that you mentioned Delancey's idea of dynamic event in the beginning, but could you go over why this view is important?
Right. So for example, in the subjunctive mood, where Varsat Padyo Hase, we're looking at the resultative kind of a reading, right? When it's inferred. So it is talking about the event has already happened, and then post that, like we have been post that we get the evidential reading after the inference of post the event, right? So it isn't during the event or in the mid of the event. This reading we get after the event has happened, versus versus this simple present tense where we have a loko ave che. So this is still in what do we say? the event happening. So the mid like state of the event vector. And it's not the origin or it's not the end of the event, it's still happening, right? So this is why I had considered looking at that, as in trying to understand how and where all of these events and evidences lie in the event vector point.
Okay, we hope that answers your question, Shrikar. Oh, he has a follow-up.
Okay, right.
You can type it out now before we move on to our next question.
Can I just ask it, yeah?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about the cases where you have an example of someone saying, "Arey, you've grown so tall," right? So on a slightly related note, suppose I'm on a blind date and then I go meet this guy and he's like 6'8" or whatever, and then I say, "Arey, you're so tall," not "you have grown so tall," but "you are so tall," and would you still use the same form? And so why I ask that question is because being so tall is a state, right? Like there's no sense
Right.
of it as a dynamic nature. So
Right.
anything change in your examples based on that?
Okay, so I still get a myrative reading in there as well, as in, "Arey, you're so tall." It does still have a sense of a little bit of surprise, right? I mean, that's how I read it.
But is there a change in evidential readings or what is available?
Right, I don't think so, because I get myrative readings in the both of them, as in, "Arey, tum kitne bade ho gaye ho," or "Arey, tum kitne lambe ho," right? So I get myrative readings in both. Yeah. And both are visual. So I don't see a difference there. Right.
Good. I hope that satisfies your question. Because we have questions lined up, I'll move on to the next one.
Okay.
Sohad wants to know what kind of grammatical markers classify a language into type 2 as per Bashir.
Sorry, is there a way I could like read the chat as well? Okay.
Yes, you can.
Okay, yeah, just a minute.
If you can see the 2:45 p.m. question by Sohad, that's the one.
Right.
I brought to your attention just now.
Right. What kind of grammatical marker?
He has amended his question just now. He says, what kind of markers of evidentiality classify a language into type 2 as per Bashir?
Right. So the kind of evidentials where you overtly mention the source from where you have got the information, right? So that is, those kinds of languages are the ones which fall into the type 2 as per Bashir. Am I okay? Right. All right.
Next question was from Gargi, which was answered by Samapriya, but still, if you want to bring it up. So she wants to know whether there are other South Asian language families that you know of, except the Indo-Aryan, which exhibit evidential marking explicitly.
Okay. No. I don't know of it. No, sorry.
So Samapriya has mentioned Kham Tibetan, Shreya had mentioned Spiti.
Okay.
So yes,
Right.
that's one area to look into.
Right.
So Aisha had a question. She asked, is there some TAM form that cannot go with a particular evidential interpretation in Gujarati?
Like the mood, For example, hortative mood, where I say that, okay, he should do this, or એને આવું કરવું જોઈએ. So where I'm presenting a wish, or like, yeah, I'm presenting a wish that he like should do this or that. So I don't get any evidential reading there. Tense and aspect, I'll have to look more closely, but mood, yeah, this would be one example.
Okay. Aisha, do you have a follow-up question to that?
No, let me just ask orally. Saying that if we look at your data, so because basically you're getting most of your example sentences are polysemous between various evidential interpretations. So, right? So it could be interpreted as direct, inferential, blah, 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 right? I mean, it could have any of those. So, which means I presume what you're doing is imagining a context and saying which would be your canonical visual and see whether the form can be used there. So, I mean, even your simple modal sentence that you just gave with, he ought to, or he wishes to leave a. Can we not imagine it in a context in which it is, let's say, a quotative? It's a quote. Or you're not committed to the strength of it. So obviously, direct and for unrealized events, you will not be able to use visual sensory evidentials.
Yes, yes.
Right? But I was wondering more generally, is there, can we look at all your tab markers and see that is there any evidential interpretation that is really bled from, that you have a bleeding, you can't ever get this. Meritive. For example, meritive, surprise, you can be surprised at anything. Right? So you will get a surprise reading for every single tense and aspect and mood. So one way to look at it. But, generally, this strategy, I mean, it's not that you are faulty. This strategy which says that, what we have is an evidential, you can, as Yang Chen said, you can put it in a certain context. And then you will get what would be the equivalent of an evidential meaning in a language that marked evidentiality. But do we want an account of grammatical categories like this? I'll ask you for generally to think about tense. So we know that there are languages that mark today, today past. So,
yes.
Earlier today, or yesterday past.
Right.
Now, in Hindi, I can say that कल आया था, मैं 3 साल पहले आया था, मैं, और मैं अभी आया हूँ. Do I want to say that these languages also represent today past? I mean, in terms of theory and description, Rashid extends the notion of evidentiality basically to say, anyway, if you can put it in such context where the evidential would occur in one, what do we gain theoretically out of that? Because then we are really saying that every language has every category. Because I presume we are not in the early 20th century where we believe that languages differ in speakers of languages differ in their cognitive ability. So we believe that if you can say it in one language, you can say it in another. You might just not be in the same category. I'm wondering what attracts you to Bashir's this particular interpretation of Bashir's thesis. What is the category of evidentiality? If every language has it, a sentence can have it. So really now I have two questions. From one, it has become two questions. One is that, can we see that there is some positive correlation and an inverse correlation or a negative correlation between a TAM form, or let's say just and a particular evidential interpretation? Two, that if we are going to say that, if we are going to follow Bashir, and assume that everybody has evidentiality, even though they don't have any morphological marking for it.
Right.
Then what have we gained in terms of describing the world's languages? I mean, you don't have to answer now. One can, I just...
Right. So, yeah, I've noted it down. I'll think upon it more. Yes. Thank you, Aisha.
We can talk again also. I mean, if you would like to talk.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Aisha, for those questions. Before we move on to Chinmay's raised hand, we have two more questions in the group chat. First, let's take the follow-up to Aisha's question by Kinjal. Sampada, he wants to know, does the simple future without the auxiliary kam kar se will work also give you an evidential reading?
Yeah, I think yes. I'll still get the similar reading.
Okay. He says he got it. And then the question just above it by Sohar. Does the presence of lage in Gujarati blur the line of its classification into type 1 in any way?
I don't know, as in like just one instance of it. I'll have to look into it more. I can't have a comment right away upon this.
We can always have a follow-up of these discussions personally with the speaker. Sampada, if you could just give your email ID also.
Yes, I'll do that.
I think it was there on your title slide.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on to Chinmay, who has raised his hand.
Yes.
Yeah. So something on the lines of what Aisha was saying. I think, I mean, at least a cursory typology of South Asian languages in terms of evidentiality would be interesting to look at and to find out, are there actually such languages where evidentiality is not observed in either tense, modes, or aspects?
You mean it's present like overtly grammatically?
Yeah, it's overtly.
Okay,
yeah. And about lage kind of things and quotatives, as I can think of some examples from Telugu, there are some interesting clitics which other Dravidian languages don't have. And also some cases from Dakhni would be interesting to look at how evidentiality of Telugu is getting translated in Dakhni, because Dakhni does not have that kind of a clitic structure, or those clitics are just unavailable in Dakhni. So that is one. So typology is one area that we can explore. And second is historically, this is just a curiosity of mine, I'm just sharing it aloud. Is it the case that most of the classical languages essentially would be type 2 languages where like for example the aorist
forms, yes.
It is very likely that most of the classical languages do exhibit, but but if you look at the other languages, it is very likely that they happen to lose it, or they get differently grammaticalized. You develop some clitics or some quotatives or something else.
Right.
So that development of what
that's
happens.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's very interesting to look at. Yes, diachronically. Yes.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chinmay. Sampada, Aisha has also a reference for you, which maybe you could look at. DT Bhadra has worked on Bangla evidentials. So that might be useful for your future work.
Yes, yes. Okay, yeah. Thanks, Aisha. I'll look into it. Yes.
This is a final call for questions, clarifications, comments. I think we are done. So I thank you, Sampada, for joining us today and making us walk through this world of evidentiality in Gujarati. We enjoyed your talk, and you have compliments pouring in for you in the group chat.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And we had a fun discussion and questions to answer round, which I hope was helpful to everybody here.
Right.
So thanks once again from Zoomdemic team for joining us. And to all the participants who joined us today, thank you for coming in today. We have our next talk scheduled for Saturday, 23rd May at 2 p.m. Today we saw something from Gujarati. We'll shift from Gujarati to Assamese for Saturday when we have Ishani Besha talking to us about complementizers is in Assamese on Saturday. Hoping to see you all then. And thank you once again, Sampada.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.